Hey YouTube, MC Mura here, and as you know, Alex comes out on the 17th of March, and Capcom did announce that they're doing a balance patch with Alex. Now, they did announce this in a tweet. We're saying on March 17th, we plan to implement a battle balance adjustments for all characters. So, is this like the season 4 patch? I mean, I guess we will see, right? We still are not totally sure of the scope of this patch, but after the feedback from the patch where they buffed Sagat Elena, I think the message is clear that they want changes. And I find it interesting that they said adjustments for all characters and they didn't really address the mechanics. And I do imagine that is really what people want to see, right? I mean, if I'm being honest, at its core, Street Fighter 6 since launch have been about this, where it's the crouching medium kick drive rush, you knock them down, and now you subjugate them to the throw loop. So I do imagine that people want to see changes to the mechanics and they want something fresh. They want Street Fighter 6, the meta to change a little bit and the way that we interact, the way that we play the game change a little bit. And this is something that historically Capcom have always done. With Street Fighter 4, with Street Fighter 5, since I played both of these games competitively, the game would always start kind of like Street Fighter 6, where it's super high damage, super aggressive, and then the game would move over into a more stable direction with the changes. And I do imagine that is what Capcom is trying to do as well, since in the prior patch they nerfed parries a little bit. If you remember, they nerfed back throws. In Season 1, some characters would get like back throws into throw loops. So it's clear that they do wanna normalize the game and move it into a more stable direction. I think so, at least. But we're getting there very, very slowly, and people really do want a shakeup. Now, before I get into what I hope Capcom will do to the system, I do wanna make a point clear. While I would love to see Capcom change Drive Rush, I want to see them change throw loops, how the mechanics work, I also do think it's important for Capcom to add new stuff. And that's something that they've always done as well, right? When they added like another V skill, another V trigger, when they added Ultra Combo 2, when they added like the delayed wake up and everything, Red Focus. Adding new tools adds some new spice, right? We don't want another remix of Street Fighter 6, we want real additions, we want to feel like the game is growing, the game is evolving, the game is changing, and ultimately the game being, I think, the vast majority would agree that yeah, we would like to see a more stable game. Now, with all of that being said, Capcom did show the Alex trailer and they showed this. Which, like I said, that is like a diabolical stuff to show in a trailer, right? I think this shows us that Capcom, I mean, maybe they don't really have intentions of changing how a core aspect of Street Fighter 6 works, which is Drive Rush. Street Fighter 6, I think in general, people have two main complaints, right? Which is Drive Rush and obviously throw loops once you got as opponent to the corner. And while I do think a lot of people will complain about throw loops, in my opinion, the biggest issue with Street Fighter 6 is Drive Rush, right? Because Drive Rush is what enables everything. It's the opening that allows everything else to happen. It's what gets you in. And we all have been talking about Drive Rush since this game have been playable, but it really is crazy. So the thing about Drive Rush is that obviously it adds +4 hit or block advantage. So like if you happen to throw out this Drive Rush, you are getting combos into Oki. If the opponent happen to block it, not only are you gaining meter and they are losing meter, like say for example, like Terry's standing heavy punch. This move is 9 frame startup and it's plus on block, right? So it is likely that Terry is gonna do one of them into another, right? So now with Terry, I did a Drive Rush into 2 heavy punches, and I'm still plus on block, by the way. Terry pretty much spent like half a meter, while JP lost an entire bar, right? I think an issue that ties into Drive Rush as well is just how much you are losing for blocking moves in this game. But anyways, it's extremely rewarding on block, because on block you are getting the plus frames, so the opponent is gonna be at a disadvantage. If they try to challenge, they are probably gonna get hit, they're gonna get counter hit, so they are likely either taking the grab or they're gonna block, so they're losing even more drive, which is a problem. Another issue with drive rush is that there really is multiple timings and there's so much variation to what could happen, what could come out of a drive rush. Like from this range, drive rush jab, and that could be very hard for the defender to deal with, right? So what most people do is well, they're gonna try to parry it, right? But also you could like drive rush into grabs him, right? And if I try to twitch parry, I get punish countered, and now I lost like 1.5 bar, right? Or because I want to react to the drive rush jab, maybe JP will do like drive rush into like delay overhead, right? And I try to tap parry, and I didn't get punish countered because he did like a much slower normal, right? So that's an issue. There's a lot of variance in the timing. Because I am afraid of trying to check like the drive rush jab, like the reaction of trying to go for the parry, that is what most of the high level players will actually try to do, right? Because if they got successful, I mean, that could be good, right? But there's also a bunch of other problems. Like JP, for example, you wouldn't consider JP to be a character with a really fast drive rush, right? You wouldn't consider it. But here's the thing. JP have normals with extremely disjointed hitbox, right? Like for example, his drive rush crouching medium punch, or his crouching medium punch in general. This move is extremely disjointed. So JP can do that, and this is genuinely extremely hard to check, right? I tried to check him here, I got counter hit. I tried to check him, I got counter hit, because the move itself have massive disjoint, and JP is like plus 12 on this, so he's getting combos, right? You would think that a character like JP would have a bad drive rush, but in all honesty, I find it very hard to check him. And if I try to do something like a drive impact, obviously his move is, the crouching medium punch is special cancelable, so obviously he can DI you back and he's still able to block, so that is hard, right? It's really hard to deal with that sort of stuff. And then we have the layer of moves, especially special moves, that could extremely halt your momentum. Like say that JP again is gonna drive rush, right? And well, if he just does nothing, well, for me as a Terry, that's an easy check, right? But JP can drive rush into that, right? Which, alright, I try to check, now I got hit. By the way, actually, this is not a punish counter because Terry have a broken crouching medium punch at like 14 recovery frames. But yeah, like you may try to check, and obviously there's so many of this. Like he can drive rush into the spike, he can drive rush into the grab, drive rush scissors, suppressors type. You know it, right? If you played the game, you know what I'm talking. Even Terry got that. So there's so many characters that are able to do that. So what can we do, right? I'm talking at length about the options out of drive rush and how strong they are, but what can we do? I think first we have to come and accept the reality that Capcom wants to keep drive rush strong, right? They want to keep it strong, and the reality of fighting games is that you do need options like drive rush, which I know is crazy, but you do need them, because if the game doesn't have any ways to force the issue, then the game is just gonna become about turtling, and whoever moves first loses, and it's gonna be about that just with punishing, and I don't think that is desirable. Capcom don't really want that. Capcom don't really want slow game because that is bad for spectators, and that's why even in Street Fighter V we had moves like EX Zonk, EX Tackle, EX Dash Straight. That stuff have always existed, right? One thing that I've seen, one comment that people are asking for is, well, let's make it so that you remove the +4 advantage, right? Like Terry's jab is typically -1 out of drive rush, +4, so now it becomes a 3 frame. This is an interesting idea for the neutral. Like if I'm throwing drive rush like that in the neutral, then yeah, maybe that would reduce the reward. So that now Terry doesn't get like double standing heavy punch into JP's meter absolutely melting, right? So that is sound. However, this also carries a big issue, that knockdown game, right? Because the thing about this game is that Street Fighter 6 barely got any plus-on block moves, and in reality most characters will knock you down and then they're gonna drive rush for Oki, right? So if the drive rush advantage here is gonna be at default, and Terry is an exception obviously because he have a standing heavy punch that is plus-on block, but a good portion of the roster will not be able to do anything except like jab pressure and just stagger jab, rapid fire jabs. So that would significantly reduce the pressure game in Street Fighter 6. So I don't see Capcom going for that direction at all, and I obviously don't see them going for drive rush costing more meter. That's never gonna happen because that's gonna change the combo flow of many of the characters in the game, right? They still want Street Fighter 6 to have cool stuff, so they still want you to be able to do stuff like that, right? If that was more expensive, then maybe Terry wouldn't be able to do it, and obviously they want to keep that sort of combo in the game. So that also is off the table, right? And like I said, there are moves like JP's crouching medium punch, which could be like very hard to check, but it's clear that they want JP to have busted normals, right? And you can't adjust the hitbox, hurtbox for every specific move because of drive rush, right? They're not gonna change the crouching medium punch just because of drive rush, right? Because out of drive rush you can simply act, do whatever. You can throw, you can TP, you can do whatever, even backdash, jump, and obviously it depends on the timing you're allowed to do that out of the drive rush, but that is still there. So I have two suggestions, two ways that Capcom may do to change drive rush and how it works. And these I think are feasible, realistic changes, right? So the first one, and this really is the issue, one of the major issues with drive rush in my opinion, is reduce the reward on block, right? And what I mean by that is not the frame advantage, but the drive gain, right? So the drive rush itself, this will take roughly about a meter, right? But the issue is with Terry, if I did like a drive rush heavy punch, the heavy punch counted as if it is just a regular heavy punch. And because I did this move and the opponent happened to block, Terry is gaining drive gauge. Effectively, this makes it so that this drive rush heavy punch, if we actually stopped it here, this is not really a 1 bar move. This is like a 80% of a bar, right? Terry is gaining drive immediately, and the issue here is that, as I showed you before, if JP happened to block and I did two of them, and this is pretty much like a lock-on, Terry pretty much is still above 1 bar lost, and JP lost the bar, right? And this is never gonna change as well. The defender is always gonna lose bar because Capcom have the parry intact, right? Their idea is, well, let's keep it that way because JP have an option, and that option is, well, he could parry, and if he parried, he gains back meter. So I don't think they're ever gonna change drive damage dealt on block. Right? I think that's here to stay as well. So what could we possibly change? And obviously, one thing I want to show as well is that even if you happen to get the hit, I mean, Terry is still gaining meter, right? So he got the meter on hit as well. And even if JP happened to block and then we threw him, on that grab, Terry is gonna gain meter, right? So Terry got meter back on the throw as well. So I think what should happen is easy. I feel like I spend a lot of time to set up what I want to do, but for drive rush, enforce a drive gain lockout after DR. So what I mean by that is, after that initial drive rush, you are not gaining meter for some time. And do you want to get mind blown? This is actually in the game, by the way. Like if I drive rush and I just stop, we're just gonna spend some time here before Terry actually starts gaining meter. That actually is in the game. The game does have an option where if you happen to drive rush and you stop or you do an action, like even if I did like drive rush heavy punch, Terry's not gonna gain meter for a while. The issue is that this gets immediately overwritten if you do a follow-up action. So if I did drive rush heavy punch, I'm not getting meter. I throw a jab, and now Terry will immediately gain meter back. Or I do like a heavy punch, and then the follow-up heavy punch is giving me meter. What I'm asking for is, okay, I drive rushed. Now for the upcoming 20 frames, 30 frames, a couple of seconds, say I did a drive rush, for the upcoming 2 seconds, I am not gaining drive gauge. Absolutely, I'm not gaining it. So that this would balance out the risk reward a little bit. Like sure, JB here is blocking, which means that okay, so he is losing drive, but why is Terry gaining drive back? All of the reward are on Terry and all of the risk is on JP in this instant, right? So if after this situation, Terry will not gain any meter, but JP will also have the option of parry or whatever, because it's still a mix-up, right? Because drive rush into grab exists, and if you're trying to parry, I mean that still does carry some risk, but I'm trying to even out the reward a little bit. I think it's nonsense that you can start a combo with a drive rush like that and end up gaining meter, right? That to me is actually kind of insane. So the first change I would make is simply make it so that the meter gain is there's a lock on meter. You don't gain any meter once you're out of drive rush, right? At least for a while. It's in the game, enforce it. That's all I'm trying to say, right? The second change I would make is adjust the hurt boxes. Obviously, when a character is drive rushing, you can't change the normals themselves, right? You can't change every specific normal. But what you can do is add a hurt box, make the character fatter when they are drive rushing, so that when they are drive rushing from a distance, there is at least variable timing. Because of the variable timing and of the moves and everything, if I'm using a move that is long, I have more of a chance to actually stop them, right? Even from that, even if I'm using a move like Terry standing medium kick, I'm still losing to JP's crouching medium punch or trading because of the hurt box. The hurt box doesn't change, right? So add hurt box to the drive rushing character. So that's number one. That's the first change. Number two, add a hurt box to the drive rusher. I think that would actually, drastically improve things. And I know drive rush is extremely strong. I know it is right now, right? But I'm still not done, because I do think that checking drive rush should result in a punish counter state, right? Because remember, punish counter will always only be like only on the first hit as well. It's still only on the first hit, and typically you're checking drive rush with like mediums, so it's not the end of the world, right? I think it's not the end of the world if you happen to get hit. As stand right now, it's on counter hit, but if I am able to check a drive rush, I think I need to be rewarded a little bit, right? I think if Capcom did all of this and they kept the options out of drive rush the way it is, I know some people are saying remove specials out of drive rush, make it so that you can't fireball drive rush or whatever. I don't think Capcom is ever gonna remove options, but the stuff I am showing here is them drive rush check will be a punish counter. The stuff I'm showing here is simply to make it so that the risk reward is a little bit more balanced out. With everything I just mentioned, Drive Rush would still be ridiculous. It would still be extremely strong, but at least it will be a little bit more balanced out when it comes to characters, right? Because right now, Drive Rush is an insanely powerful option, and the risk reward is so far skewed towards the direction of the person who's drive rushing to an annoying degree, right? Which I hope this is my biggest hope for Capcom to change. Right, I don't want to change the advantage. I don't want it to change the options that you can do, but make it so that it is much more rewarding and there is at least a better chance of you being able to check it. Now, the other options that people are gonna talk about, which obviously is throw loops. And I think the general consensus, what people are talking about is simple. Make it so that characters do need to drive rush to throw loop. And that's it. That honestly is it, because if I'm spending meter for that, if I'm spending meter for the throw, like say we're talking about Sagat for example, right? Say that I do a combo, bam, 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 and then I'm gonna throw JP. I can't keep drive rushing into grabbing because I'm gonna be low on drive, right? If I keep doing that, I'm gonna be low on drive. And that's all that you need to do. And we all know that in Street Fighter 6, drive meter is practically your health gauge. So if the throw loop is still there, but it's a more risky option, I think that will automatically fix the issue. Especially since a lot of what's here will affect how going for a ton of brainless pressure is gonna result on you being meter deficient as well. So throw loop requires DR. That's it. Requires DR across the board. The thing with Street Fighter 6, which is one of the fundamental issues with the game in my opinion, is that you throw out an option. Like let's say I'm Sagat here, right? So you throw out an option like that, right? And then say that the option got blocked, right? JB lost drive, but now Sagat can just wait for a second. He got the bar back, so he then goes in again, right? There is stalling, there is fireball drive rush, there is how fast meter is regenerated. So I do think drive rush should be penalized by locking you out of meter just for a little bit. Anyways, these are my hopes, these are my thoughts. What would you change about drive rush? What would you change about the game on a mechanical level? I've seen people talk about drive reversals. I don't want them to be that much stronger, to be honest, because the thing with drive reversals is, if drive reversal is very good, then the game will become very turtly, which I don't want to see. It would be more about jump scares and more than being able to have like a strong pressure game plan. And parry already is like an incredibly strong option since every character in this game got a ton of corner carry, right? So like I perfect parry this dude and now it's done, right? He's immediately in the corner, so like parry is that strong, right? So I think defense, I don't know, it's like Street Fighter 6 have like the most suffocating offense and defense at the same time. It's a crazy game. Anyways, if you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment. It helps the channel so much. I will be leaving a link to the Patreon, Discord, Twitter, and Twitch pages in the description. Thank you so much for watching and stay safe.